Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the body language of the UFO whistleblower, David Grusch. David Grusch is an Air Force veteran and a former U.S. intelligence officer. He claims that the U.S. has intact UFOs as well as discovered bodies of pilots of non human origin. The nature of these claims are very different than many of the body language analyses I do, but it seems that a lot of people are interested in this, so let's get started so I can tell you what I'm observing as far as body language goes. Before we get started, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to watch now is part of an exclusive interview with NewsNation. We're going to look closely at his body language, and I do want you to keep in mind, he was part of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, so he does have legitimacy. So before the interview even begins, something you're going to notice is that his lips are pursed. Now, what this can mean is it can mean lack of confidence. It can also mean stress, anxiety, or concern. Now, he's getting ready to do an interview on television. He's getting ready to talk about what he says are government secrets. That could make somebody feel any of those ways, but I just want you to keep in mind how this is starting.
On secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
So we're seeing a slight smile. That could be a nervous smile, it could be socially appropriate behavior, or it could be that he is preparing to deceive. We're going to have to see which one it is.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
So right now he's nodding his head along with yes, as he's acknowledging that he's trusted with secrets. He's U.S. intelligence, so of course he's been trusted with secrets. I'd be shocked if he wasn't trusted with secrets. So that is true. And I want you to keep in mind that he does nod his head when he's saying yes, and sometimes he shakes his head when saying no. This can be very important. It sounds like a small point, but it's something that's going to be very consequential as we continue to watch this interview. Let's just watch it again.
Trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
Grusch sitting down with award-winning investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who's reporting for NewsNation.
The end of your time on the UAP task force.
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
So we're seeing the pursing of the lips. We're seeing the corners of the mouth go back. This is oftentimes associated with anxiety, concern, things like that. Now, once again, he's saying things that he says are secrets, so maybe that's no shock. But I just want you to keep track of all the little body language pieces that we're seeing. Okay, let's watch it again.
Was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
Now, this is where it starts to be questionable as to whether or not his head shakes are consistent with what he's saying. So watch this again.
Human origin technical
Now, right now his head's sort of bobbing, so you can't really say it's nodding or shaking at this point.
vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will.
All right, so he was shaking his head, call it spacecraft if you will. Now, maybe he was doing that for emphasis, or maybe he was suggesting no as he's talking about spacecraft. Let's keep watching.
Non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me.
Now we're starting to see head shakes as he's talking about this, about current and former senior officers coming to him, that starts to seem a little bit more like he's not agreeing with what he's saying. Let's watch this again.
I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it.
When he says, I've never heard of it.
Part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard
Him arching his eyebrows like that is consistent with him talking about something that did surprise him.
of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task.
So after he said that they provided me documents and hard proof, he did a hard swallow. Oftentimes we associate that with very significant amounts of stress. Does that necessarily mean he's lying? No, but we do oftentimes see it with deceitful behavior because people feel anxious after saying that. Maybe he feels anxious for another reason. But I can say pretty conclusively that that hard swallow after saying that would be associated with stress. Let's watch that again.
And they provided me documents and other proof. There was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
If you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points.
All right, now, this was from behind, but watch this. He says, absolutely the data points. Just watch his head during that.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points.
Absolutely the data points. So that was a pretty clear head shake as he said that.
Empirically, that we're not alone, yeah.
The lip pursing again. Once again, that goes back to anxiety and stress. Does that mean he's lying? No, not necessarily. We oftentimes look for that in lying and deceit because people are stressed when they lie or when they're being deceptive. It could also be that it's stressful talking about or revealing secrets.
Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not,
So he's closing his eyes as he's saying this. I talk a lot about people closing their eyes when they're talking. We oftentimes do that when we're thinking about something that we don't like. Now, does that mean that he's lying? Not necessarily. Sometimes it can be used as a way to deceive. It could just mean that he's thinking about something he doesn't want to think about or something he doesn't like. But it's a behavior worth noting. Let's watch him say this again.
sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And as we saw, there was a pretty vigorous head shake as he said, it's true. Let's watch that again.
As fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And the corners of his mouth are tight again, which once again suggests stress or anxiety.
So I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
So now you're seeing him vigorously shake his head no. So you might be asking yourself, well, if he's answering this and showing this body language here, doesn't that contradict what you were saying a second ago? Well, not necessarily, because something that we see, and we see this on trials all the time, because normally I'm analyzing trials, is that when people are asked a question directly and they want to have a very strong point about it, they can have body language consistent, even if it's not the truth. So they can say no and shake their head very vigorously. It's that it occasionally spills out. Occasionally they don't hide it well.
Everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And
Once again, there were the eyes closed. I am for real. Now, that could just mean that he's stressed talking about this. It could also be a sign of deception. It'll have to be up to you to decide what you think it is. So what conclusions can we come to after watching this interview? Well, he definitely had a lot of stress. He definitely showed a lot of concern. There were times where it suggested a lack of confidence. Does that mean he's being deceptive or lying? Not necessarily, but what it does mean is that it brings forth a lot of stress and anxiety, something that we oftentimes see when people lie. That's not the only reason people show that. What I find harder to get past is him shaking his head no when saying things in the affirmative. So do I believe that he's privy to information that suggests that we have non-human pilots that we've found? I'm not convinced yet. I definitely want to see more, but I'm open to seeing and hearing more about this as we continue. I'm sure this isn't the last we've heard of this. I'm really curious what y'all think and what body language y'all noticed. But before we wrap up, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.